Okay, so I have found that writing groups really kind of can propel your writing to the next level. If you take an opportunity to read your work to others and get feedback, it really makes a change in how you write. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the reasons why writing groups are important. And then we'll talk about some of the do's and don'ts with writing groups, and then kind of maybe how you can find one if you're looking for one to be a part of. So if for no other reason, writing groups give you a great opportunity to read your work aloud. And I don't know about you, but I often find that when I read aloud what I've written, it's where I discover a lot of the mistakes that I've made, words that I've left out or any grammar errors that I've made. Reading it aloud helps you to see that, and you can just change it right then and there. And so that is something that is just, if for no other reason, a writing group gives you an opportunity to read your work aloud. And sometimes reading aloud makes you realize, ooh, not so great, or hey, I really like the way that sounds. And so a writing group can really help do that for you. So, but there's a lot of other reasons that writing groups are a great idea. So first of all, they give you a deadline. I always set deadlines for myself. But having said that, I might be the world's biggest procrastinator. And so if I set a deadline for myself, I tend to push that deadline back because I'm the only one that set the deadline. But if you have a writing group, you have a group of people to be accountable to. And so that can make a big difference in your writing and getting the writing done, actually just bleeding it out on the page and getting it done. If you have someone that you have to read to and share your work, because you don't want to show up at your writing group without something written. And some writing groups I've been involved in, they will even maybe pull out an old writing because maybe they didn't have time to write or something like that, so that they don't let their group down. And so writing groups give you a deadline, and that's a really positive aspect of being involved with a writing group. Another thing that I love about writing group is that you can get ideas from other writers. We oftentimes are harsh critics on ourselves and struggle with the idea of whether we're good writers or not, or how we can improve. And the thing that I love about a writing group is that we see all different kinds of writing styles. We have, there's people who kind of stick to the facts. There's people who are really flowery writers. For me, I fall somewhere in between that. Being a newspaper reporter for a long time, I learned how to stick just to the facts and got away from more descriptive writing. And so being in a writing group helps me to see how to kind of combine those two things together. And I really enjoy that. And I think we can get those ideas and kind of add them into our own work as we go. And sometimes those ideas are even subconscious. You don't even realize that you've gotten those ideas until you write a new piece and think, oh, this is kind of a similar style to so-and-so or to someone in my group. And that can make a big difference and and really help out a lot. Another great part, and maybe the best part of a writing group, is the feedback that you will receive there. Feedback is priceless to your work. You may write something and think that it's really where it needs to be. And you can go to a writing group and have the opportunity to learn maybe what's lacking, or learn what is actually really good and doesn't need more information. I oftentimes find in writing groups that there might be little pieces that people leave out when they write, that give the reader questions about their work, like maybe not introducing a character all the way, or describing a place so that people can understand what it is. And that feedback can help us to add in those little pieces that may be missing. Or if we're adding too much detail, it gives us an opportunity to give that feedback and to hear it and to be able to make those changes. One of the keys to feedback is listening with an open mind so that you can make those changes, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Another thing about writing groups is it helps with writer's block. Oftentimes we write and we get stuck. And we don't know why we're stuck and we don't know how to move past it. And if you can come to your writing group and say, hey, I am stuck. I don't know how to get past this part, or I'm really struggling writing about this difficult part of the story. How do I move past it? And with a writing group, you can get that advice. And sometimes the advice is simple and you walk away thinking, why didn't I think of that? But we have writer's block, so we're not going to think of it until we talk to somebody else. And that other person may give us the insight that we need. And you can help someone else with their writer's block. Sometimes people will say, I can't move past this particular thing, and it seems so simple. But if we can offer that advice in a kind way, it can make all the difference. So writer's block is real. I think we all know and discover it. And so say you go to your writing class and you only have a couple paragraphs written because you're stuck. You may come away, you may have the most discussion in your class about you to help you get past that writer's block. And that's a really important and critical thing. And then the other thing I love about writing groups, it's a great idea exchange. People come to writing groups all in different places in their story journey, in their writing journey. Some may be on the more professional level and have published books, and they can help you and lead you and guide you down the right path. Other people may be just starting and they don't know where to turn, and we can offer help to them. Or maybe you have the corner on the best software program to use for writing, and you can give that advice, or maybe you're seeking that. Writing groups aren't just for professionals. Writing groups are for people at all levels, because we can exchange ideas and give help and move forward in that way. And I think there's something for everyone, even for the professional writer who has written forever. I think that there's something that we can learn from writing groups. And I know for me, I'm leading a writing group right now, and I come away learning something new every single month when I walk away from that group. I learn how to improve my skills. I learn tips that people have picked up from other writing groups. We also exchange websites that have helpful tips and information. And sometimes it feels a little bit like a therapy session, your writing group, because you're all sharing sometimes your personal life stories that you may be writing about. And there's a part of us that has to be vulnerable when we come to a writing group. And when you let yourself be vulnerable, we all learn and we all grow. And I think that's something to remember and to think about as you are plunging into a writing group. Let yourself be a little bit vulnerable. Let yourself be malleable and teachable. And then that is when you will learn the most. So that exchange of ideas is really great and important. So one thing that I would say is really important when you're going to do a writing group is to make sure that you have an expert on board in your group. If you have a group of people who are maybe all learning how to write, and you don't have anyone else that kind of knows the craft, you're not necessarily going to learn and grow as much. You can learn and grow still, for sure. But if you have an expert on board that can offer feedback and guidance, that is where you're going to really succeed and propel your writing. So it's a good idea to find someone to lead your writing group that can be in that way. Sometimes you may have to have a little skin in the game and pay them a little bit to be a part, but it's worth it. And it usually isn't something that's going to break the bank to include an expert on board with your group. So I want to talk a little bit about the rules of writing groups, because sometimes if having some structure is going to make all the difference with your writing group. So some of the things that I have found to over the years to have a really good solid writing group are just some of these ideas. So you should have a group of at least 4 in your group so that you can get really good feedback and really take the time needed to make it worth your time to have at least 4 people. I would say bigger than 8 is probably too much. 6 to me is about the sweet spot for a writing group. That doesn't mean that has to be a hard rule. And sometimes if you have more than 8, my suggestion would be to break into 2 groups and do it that way, just so that you're not getting tired by the time you get to that last reader reading their work in their writing group. And the other thing I would suggest is to pick a moderator for the day. It doesn't have to be your expert who's, kind of leading the group. It can be a different person in the writing group, and you can switch and take turns. But a moderator is often a really good idea because they can keep time. So I would say, give each reader, set a time for how long you want your class to be, your group to be, and then give each reader that amount of time for reading and feedback so that one person isn't necessarily taking all the time, but it's kind of moving along, and that moderator can kind of keep things in line. Another thing that's a good idea is to start with an icebreaker before you start reading, especially in those first few meetings of your writing group, because it can be a little daunting. And like I mentioned before, we have to be a little vulnerable. And so an icebreaker, just maybe just kind of start a little small talk or a random question that everybody can have. And then a really important rule of writing groups is just to listen. Listen. Come prepared to listen. You're going to read your piece, but the most important part of a writing group is to be a listener. So put away your distractions, put away your phones or other things that might be on your mind, and come prepared to just take an hour or 2 and just be in the moment right then. And then another important part of being in a writing group is learning how to critique, but not criticize. So I like to kind of have questions in my mind as I'm listening to the piece read. Did I enjoy it? What was the story about? How did the story make you feel? Was the place clear in your mind's eye that they're talking about? Did you feel a connection with the characters? Did you have any unanswered questions? And if you can kind of answer those questions, that's a great, and you can offer that positive feedback. But if you're struggling with some of them, then you can ask those questions to the writer and say, hey, I wasn't totally sure about this, or maybe you could guide us in this. And the other side of that is, as the writer, be open to those critiques and be ready to listen and to make those changes, and not necessarily, you can explain maybe why you didn't set up a scene better or different things like that so that the listener can understand, but just be open to that feedback. And then another important part is for each person to offer 3 or 4 for each, every time someone reads something, for there to be 3 or 4 comments about the piece. There's nothing worse than getting done reading a piece and there's dead silence. It's really important to make sure that you comment. And it doesn't have to all be the best. Oh, that was really good. Like, give some details about why you enjoyed the piece or about what questions you have about it. Don't just give one word critiques. Really offer good help and direction. And then, as I kind of mentioned before, as the writer, be open to new ideas and know that people are there because they want to help you and they want to be a part of your writing journey, and let them be a part of that and open yourself up for that change. I think sometimes for me as a young writer, even when I was in writing groups in college, it was a little harder for me to be open to new ideas because I was so unsure of myself. But once I kind of let myself be open to that, I became a better writer because I was able to see where I needed to make changes. And so that was really valuable for me. So another question people often have is, where do I find writing groups? Like, where can I find, places to be involved and to be a part of. And there's local chapters. If you look online, in the past I've Googled, writing groups near me, and you will find those. I know I live in the state of Utah, and there's a Utah League of Writers, and there are chapters in almost every county of writing groups that you can be involved in. There's online writing groups, there's in-person writing groups. There's the online writing groups. You often don't even read your work. Other people read it and give you feedback. And then there's virtual writing groups. Right now I'm leading a virtual writing group that has been just a joy. I taught a class on writing, and then we read work every week in the class. And then now we've continued on with the writing groups. And that has been a really positive experience. And then some groups meet and they write during their writing group, and then they read their work after. So if you procrastinate and have a hard time writing at home, they get together and have their writing group lasts half the day, and they write and they read and they share. So there's a lot of different ideas, and we offer writing groups at Evalogue.Life. And so watch for your emails. We're going to have a new class where you can take a writing class, which will include a writing group, and that will start the end of September. So look for a time to sign up for that, because it is worth your while. I have just really enjoyed the time that I've had with our spring class, and then we meet monthly now to continue to read our work. So it's can be a really positive, wonderful thing. So sometimes I babble on too long, but we have a few minutes. If you have a couple of minutes, if you have any questions about writing groups or things you would like to see in a writing group, I would love your feedback with that. As we are working on honing our crafts at writing groups at Evalogue.Life. So I'm going to stop my screen share and open up for some questions if you have any today.
So my question is, when a writing group gets together, about how long is the session usually lasting? So like a couple of hours or?
Yep. So the writing group that I'm running right now is 2 hours. So sometimes you have open-ended, like I was involved in one in my neighborhood a few years ago, and we would just plan for the evening. So we would go, and it could be between 1 hour and 3 hours, just depending upon how many people came and how long the pieces were that they wrote. So it really depends. In my group, we don't go past 2 hours, but if we get finished earlier, then we adjourn earlier. So I think 2 hours is a pretty sweet spot to go with. People come prepared and they don't get too tired. So yeah, 2 hours is great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And then just one question. The group that you're leading right now or involved with, is that the type of group that you have just described, where people have written and then they bring their writing to the class and then you all share and critique one another?
Yes. So a lot of the people that are in the group that I'm in right now have ongoing projects that they're working on, that some of them had maybe already started before the actual writing class that I taught, or started at that time. And so we share. And then some people in the class are kind of writing vignettes that they're going to put together in like a book. And so they bring a different vignette every time. So some people are reading kind of an ongoing project, but then some are just reading vignette stories that they have written too. And another thing you can do with a writing group, if you're just kind of getting started with writing, you choose a topic to write to every month. And so I was in a writing group at one time that did that. And so like we would choose, what was my most embarrassing moment? And then everybody in the group wrote about their most embarrassing moment, or what was the best day of my life? And then everybody wrote about that. And so that was kind of a fun project too. And a lot of the people in that group, once they were done, they compiled all of their short vignettes into a book, because it was about their own life story. So that was a fun way to do a writing group as well.
Wow, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions? We have time for a couple more. Oh, yes, Peggy.
I've been holding a writing group for a couple of years, and we were doing just what you said, the little vignettes. And now I'm getting to the point where I can't think of any more questions to ask. So how do you think I could extend my writing group or invite, like if we've had some people join partway through, so they've missed some of the questions. So I don't want to redo things that other people have written.
Right.
I'm just not sure where to go from here because they want to keep going, but I'm running out of ideas.
The one thing I would suggest is, so like we have a book of questions at Evalogue.Life that we use when we do oral histories for people. So say you were to look, there's lots of like oral history questions that you can find to do oral history interviews. I would look at those questions and then glean your topics from there, because a lot of times, so say like one that people love to talk about or tell about is their hometown. So you could write a whole vignette about your hometown, or, tell me about your best friend. Like I would just, look at those questions that are out there, and then you can kind of glean your topics from there, because there's so many questions that are asked in oral history interviews. And I would just suggest looking at those and kind of seeing what you can pull from. And then, I would suggest too, every once in a while, in your writing group, have like a hodgepodge night where you can say, with people who have joined your group later, you can just say, we're going to have a hodgepodge night. Here are some questions that we've done in the past. Okay. You can pick one of these, or just write about whatever comes to mind, and so then you're going to have a night of variety that would be kind of fun to do as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. Yes, sure. Let's see. I got to see. Jan, go ahead.
Hi. So I have a couple different projects that I have going on. Unfortunately, I seem to be like jumping around too much. And I find that the place where I really get hung up is that I want to do citations for the things that I'm writing. Mm-hmm. And I have the book. Now, the Elizabeth Shown Mills book, and I'm, working on it and everything. But at some point, I want somebody to look at how I did my citations. And that takes like a really special person, right? Who wants to help you with your citations. Yes. Do you have any suggestions? Recruiting?
I know that my husband knows people that can do that. So I will put my email in the chat, and you can email me and I can talk to him, because he works for Family Search. And so he knows people that are professionals that know how to do that. And I could guide you to some people who would know how to do that, because he's kind of an expert about that. So let me put my email in the chat, and then we can talk about it. You can email me and we can talk about it.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. Sometimes I'm not a very good multitasker, you guys. So, all right. One more question. You can take one more question if there's one out there. All right. It looks like we're good today. I really appreciate you joining and talking about writing groups. And I hope if you have any questions, I put my email in there. I would love to address them, or watch for your email when we'll have signups for the next class. And we'll also be offering just a writing group Q&A time. So it will just be kind of a monthly time for you to come and ask questions about your work and have an opportunity to maybe read your work. And we'll be doing that too. So watch your email for that to be coming up this fall. So have a great week, and we will talk to you soon. Thank you so much.